This is a photograph of a concrete panel in a swimming pool deck. The concrete in the panel is sound, but with age, the surface has spalled down to the larger aggregate. To restore this panel, first the shallow damage must be filled with mortar. What is being applied in the photo is a Fusion-Crete 2 shallow fill. The fill coat is applied with magnesium floats or trowels. The mortar is spread just to the top of the larger aggregate. The easy way to do this is to listen for the sound of the float as it nicks the top of the larger aggregate. The finish in this step doesn't need to be perfect. Small trowel lines will be scraped off before the finish coat is applied, which will also cover small imperfections. The mix design for the mortar is the same as the finish coat. The premix is 1 part Fusion-Crete 2 crystals to 2 parts water, and the dry mix is 1 part cement to 1 part sand. The difference is this mortar will not be mixed as wet as a broom finish coat. This is a photograph of another panel that needs a shallow fill coat. Here is a photograph of the panel after the fill coat has been applied. As you can see, the surface is not perfect, but the spalling is filled, the trowel lines are scraped off, and a broom finish coat will make it look brand new. Here a worker is mixing the dry ingredients for a shallow fill coat. The cement to sand ratio is 1 part cement to 1 part sand, and in this case the sand is a fine 70 mesh silica. This particular project is large in scope, so mixing the dry components ahead of time in bulk will make things go more smoothly. Now enough Fusion-Crete 2 premix has been added to make the mortar almost pourable. This subject property is a driveway slab originally installed as exposed aggregate concrete. Much of the surface has been deteriorated by snowmelt agents and snow plowing. So the owner of this property is extending the life of the concrete by having the damage filled in and smoothed over. Areas of deeper damage have already been filled in and feathered out with Fusion-Crete 2 mortar. After the surface has been primed with premix, the fill coat is being spread with magnesium floats. Just enough of the trowelable mortar is being spread to hear the floats nicking the very top of the rocks. There are 2 basic options for finishing this kind of a fill coat. One method is to finish the fill coat with magnesium floats and trowels. Don't worry about getting the top perfect. Let the mortar cure overnight, and then come back and scrape down any imperfections or finishing ridges with the edge of a trowel. Then use a finish coat method to apply a finish coat on top of the fill coat. Here a worker is using a small paintbrush with many of the bristles cut off to detail the control joint profile. Care is taken to make sure that primer is sprayed down so that none of the mortar is spread onto a dry surface. There is a second option for finishing a fill coat. That option is technically more difficult but quicker. In this case, the weather is warm and dry, and the mortar is curing quickly enough to broom out after it's placed. But whether you broom finish the fill coat or apply a second finish coat, the method of applying the fill coat is still the same. The challenge with broom finishing the fill coat is the timing of the broom strokes. If the broom strokes are applied when the mortar is too wet, it will tend to pull the mortar out of any depressions and make an irregular surface. On the other hand, if the broom strokes are applied when the mortar is too dry, you won't be able to get broom stroke lines in the top of the concrete. If you do try to broom finish the fill coat and the mortar becomes too dry, carefully mist water onto the surface until you get the desired result. But be very careful not to over-moisten the surface and compromise the mix design. If the mortar becomes too dry to finish, you can always apply a broom finish coat later. More often than not, it's easier to apply the fill coat, let it go to initial set, and then apply finish coat over that. Making the decision between the two methods often depends on many things, like the size of the crew, the depth of the fill, the weather conditions, the location of the project, and so forth. This project is at a condominium complex driveway. The desired quality of appearance on this project is high, but the crew on this project is large enough and experienced enough to achieve a good quality of appearance on one pass over a fill coat. However, it will be easier to get a high quality of appearance by applying a fill coat and then a broom finish coat on top of that. There's a separate video section for applying broom finish coats.